The cry in the dark. There's something about Jaipur's night air that feels heavy, like it carries secrets no one should hear. 22-year-old Ananya had just moved from her small hometown in Rajasthan for a new job. The flat she found near her office felt like a lucky break, clean, affordable, and quiet. But from her very first week, the people in that small housing society seemed off. They stared too long. Too quietly. Like they were watching something only they could see. Whenever she stepped into the elevator or walked through the gate, their eyes followed her. Old women would pause their gossip mid-sentence, children would stop playing, and silence would cling to her like a shadow. But the rent was cheap, the office close, and she had bills to pay. So Ananya ignored it, at least she tried to. One night, while talking to her best friend Mira on the phone, Mira suddenly said, "Hey, is that a baby crying near you?" Ananya froze. She turned down the TV, listened closely, nothing. "No," she laughed uneasily. "I live alone. You're probably hearing something from your side." But over the next few days, it happened again. Every friend who called her at night asked the same question. "Why do I keep hearing a baby crying when you talk?" Ananya checked every corner of her apartment, the pipes, the vents, the floor above and below, but there was no child anywhere nearby. Yet somehow, the sound kept traveling with her voice through the phone lines. Then, one night, around 1 a.m., she woke up to the same soft, choking cry. This time, she heard it clearly. It was inside her flat. She sat up, heart pounding. "Who's there?" she whispered. The crying stopped instantly. And in the thick silence that followed, a faint giggle came from the doorway, high-pitched, playful, almost mocking. She pointed her phone's flashlight toward the sound. Something small, about the height of a toddler, darted behind the door. She caught only a flash of movement and handprints. Tiny, red-smeared handprints sliding down the wooden frame. Ananya rushed to the door, threw it open, nothing. Her hallway was empty. But when she turned back toward her mirror, her stomach twisted. Across the glass were dozens of the same small handprints, sticky, dark, and unmistakably bloody. The next morning, she confronted the society's watchman, an old man who'd been there for decades. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Finally, in a low voice, he said, "Ma'am, people say a witch used to live in that flat, an old woman who practiced black magic. She took children from the neighborhood, said she was blessing them, but they'd come back silent, or not at all. One night, after terrible screams, she vanished. Her door stayed locked for years until you moved in." Ananya's hands trembled. "What about the crying?" she asked. He hesitated. "Sometimes at night, people hear a child. The ones who hear it never sleep the same again." That evening, she searched online for what the old man had called Kachakalwa. The results made her blood run cold. It was a forbidden ritual, dark sorcery performed using the body of a child who had died before his first birthday. The corpse was not burned but buried. A black magic practitioner would later dig it up and trap the soul, forcing it to obey commands, a servant maid of hunger and grief. The power of a Kachakalwa was said to destroy anyone who disturbed its bond. Suddenly, the lights in her apartment flickered, then went out. The fan slowed, stopped. Darkness filled every corner. Ananya's throat tightened. She could feel something in the room, like the air itself was pressing on her lungs. Her chest burned, she gasped for breath. She stumbled into the kitchen, reaching for water, but the glass slipped from her hand and shattered. And then she saw it, her reflection in the kitchen window. 5 small finger marks wrapping around her neck, dark and red, as if someone, or something, had just tried to strangle her. Before she could scream, the baby's cry returned, louder, sharper, echoing from her bedroom. Ananya turned slowly toward the sound. Something moved above the wardrobe, 2 tiny gray hands gripping the edge, then a small head peeking over, half-rotten, hair hanging in strands. Its eyes were sunken, its teeth needle-sharp, and its smile, inhumanly wide. Ananya froze. The child's dead eyes met hers. Then, with a whisper like broken glass, it said, "Mama!" and leapt. The haunting that wouldn't leave. The next thing Ananya remembered was waking up on her living room floor. Her body trembled, drenched in cold sweat. The room was still dark, the power hadn't returned, but faint moonlight spilled through the balcony door, turning the shattered glass into tiny shards of silver. Her throat ached, raw and bruised where those small fingerprints had been. She sat up slowly, every breath a struggle, scanning the shadows for movement. Nothing. The apartment was silent, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that listens back. Her phone buzzed suddenly, making her flinch. It was Mira, video calling. Ananya answered with shaking hands. Anu? Are you okay? You look pale. Wait, what's that behind you? The words hit like ice. Ananya spun around. The screen froze for a second, the video glitching, but in that frozen frame, she saw it. A tiny, dark figure crouched near her couch, watching her. When the frame unfroze, it was gone. Mira, I'm leaving this place tonight, she whispered. She stuffed a few clothes into her bag, grabbed her laptop, her purse, but when she reached the door, the handle wouldn't move. It was jammed. She pulled harder. It didn't budge. Come on, she yelled, slamming her shoulder against the wood. The lights flickered once, dim orange for half a second, and in that flash she saw something written on the inside of her door, smeared in a thick red-brown color. Don't leave, Mama. Her breath caught. Her knees nearly gave out. From the kitchen, the tap began dripping. One drop. Then another. Then faster, a metallic rhythm that sounded almost like footsteps. She turned toward it, heart pounding. The refrigerator door had opened slightly on its own. She took a slow step forward. Another. The smell hit her, rot, iron, and something damp, like soil pulled from a grave. And then the crying began again, louder, angrier this time. Not the soft whimper from before. This was a scream, a furious, broken wail that filled the apartment. Ananya clutched her ears and stumbled back. The sound seemed to come from everywhere, the walls, the ceiling, even from under the floor. Please stop! She cried. And suddenly it did. Complete silence. Her own breathing sounded foreign in her ears. She looked up, and saw movement in the reflection of the window. Behind her. The child was standing by the mirror now, its head tilted slightly to one side, eyes glistening like wet marbles. One cheek was missing skin, black veins crawled across its neck. Its tiny mouth opened, too wide, and a gurgled voice whispered, "Play with me." Ananya screamed and hurled her phone toward it. The screen cracked against the wall, and the child vanished. Her chest heaved. She was shaking, trapped between running and fainting. But then her eyes landed on the old mirror, the same one that had those bloody handprints before. Something had changed. The glass rippled, like water disturbed by wind. Inside, faint outlines began to move, more children, dozens of them, pressing against the inside of the mirror, pale hands pushing outward, their mouths opening in silent cries. Ananya stumbled backward, tripping over her couch. She couldn't breathe. Her heart raced so violently it hurt. And then, from inside the mirror, one tiny hand punched through, shattering it completely. The crash echoed through the flat, followed by the soft patter of small feet. She bolted for the balcony door, fumbling with the latch. The outside lights of the society flickered, one by one, every building window went black. Down below, the security guard was looking up at her, flashlight in hand. "Madam? Everything okay?" he shouted. Ananya leaned over the railing. "Please, help me! There's someone in my flat!" The guard began climbing the stairs. She could hear his boots echoing in the stairwell. Then, silence again. "Hello?" she called out. No reply. And then, a low thud. Followed by another. She ran to the door and pressed her ear against it. Nothing but faint scratching sounds from the other side. When she peeked through the peephole, her blood ran cold. The guard was standing there, but his head was tilted at an impossible angle, and his mouth was moving like he was whispering something to the door. She leaned closer, heart hammering. From the peephole, his single visible eye twitched, then rolled upward, and a child's tiny, bloody hand pushed out of his mouth. Ananya staggered back in horror. The door handle twisted violently, once, twice, and then the knocking began. Knock. 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 A child's voice sang softly from behind the door, muffled, sing-song, almost innocent. "Mama, let me in!" Ananya screamed. The lights went out again. This time, they didn't come back on. The final night. Ananya didn't sleep. She sat on the floor beside the locked door, clutching a half-burnt candle she'd found in the kitchen drawer. Its weak flame flickered against the walls, stretching her shadow into strange, twisting shapes. Outside, dogs barked, distant and restless. Every sound felt alive, the ticking clock, the whine of the wind, the faint creak of the ceiling fan that wasn't even spinning. Her mind was unraveling. She'd stopped trying to explain it. This wasn't stress, or exhaustion, or imagination. Something else lived in that apartment. Something that wanted her to stay. And it called her. Mama! She opened her laptop, desperate to distract herself, to find logic in the chaos. When the screen lit up, she gasped. Her desktop wallpaper, a picture of her with Mira at college, was gone. In its place was a single, grainy photograph, a child sitting in a dark room. No face. Just a small body, dressed in something that looked centuries old. Beneath it, a file name appeared automatically. myhome.jpg. Ananya's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The moment she moved the cursor, the picture blinked. She slammed the lid shut. The light went out again. This time, even the candle's flame died, snuffed out as if someone had blown it. Darkness swallowed everything. And then she heard it. A voice. Soft, wet, and right next to her ear. You took my place. Ananya screamed and fell backward, crawling toward the balcony. She threw the door open, the cold air cutting into her skin. Somewhere down below, she could see the faint glimmer of headlights, a car entering the society gate. Help! She shouted, her voice cracking. Please! The car slowed, but didn't stop. The driver looked up at her, then pressed the accelerator. Gone. She turned back toward the room, tears streaking her face. And there, in the middle of her living room, stood the child. Its body was barely human now. Gray skin clung to bones like wet paper. Its head tilted back unnaturally, a hollow black hole where its mouth should be. Around its neck hung a rusted chain, and from that chain dangled something small, a baby's anklet. The air around her turned freezing. Her breath fogged in front of her. Who are you? She whispered. The child's head snapped forward. Its voice came like multiple tones speaking at once, part baby, part old woman, part something else entirely. You promised to keep me safe, and you burned me instead. Ananya's mind reeled. No. I've never. Before she could finish, the lights in the apartment flashed on all at once. And on every wall, written in black, dripping strokes, were the same words repeated over and over. You are the witch. Memories she didn't recognize clawed at her head, a woman chanting, a crying infant, smoke, the smell of burning herbs, the sound of a baby choking. It was as if someone else's life had been buried in her mind. She stumbled back, clutching her temples. Stop it! Stop showing me this! The child moved closer, dragging its feet on the floor. The anklet jingled faintly, the sound of something once innocent, now corrupted beyond saving. It stopped inches away from her face. You brought me back. The mirror behind the child cracked again, this time not from inside, but from her side. The reflection showed two figures, the child, and a woman behind him, old, bent, eyes black as soot, whispering something into Ananya's ear. The witch. The one who lived there before. Her reflection smiled. My body rotted. Yours will do. Before Ananya could move, her own reflection stepped forward. The glass rippled like liquid, and cold hands shot out, gripping her shoulders. The witch's voice hissed. Now you'll finish where I started. Ananya screamed as she was pulled halfway into the mirror, her fingers clawing at the floor, glass cutting into her palms. She felt her breath leave her lungs, replaced by whispers, hundreds of them, crying, laughing, chanting her name. Then silence. The next morning, the society was busy again. Neighbors whispered that someone had heard screams around 3 a.m. When the security guard came to check, the door to flat 304 was wide open. Inside, the rooms were cold and empty. Only the mirror remained, whole again, spotless, reflecting sunlight into the hallway. But when the new tenant arrived 2 weeks later and unpacked her things, she noticed something strange. At night, when she turned off the lights, she could see faint handprints on the glass, tiny, red, child-sized ones. And sometimes, when she spoke on the phone late at night, the person on the other end would ask the same question. "Hey, is that a baby crying near you?"